Hello and welcome to the Releasing Community podcast. We are here to share our love for releasing and the Sedona Method, to share our gains, insights, benefits, and experiences. I am Katja Tarmanen, and me and Stephen Robert Carlson will be hosting this podcast. And today our guest is Alex Clark. Alex has been using the Sedona Method for about 19 years, and he has been helping people to release with it consistently for over 3 years. Warmly welcome, Alex. Really lovely to have you here.
Well, thank you, Katya. Thank you, Stephen. It's really nice to be here. I'm just so grateful for the both of you taking your time today and putting this on, and grateful for the wonderful community we have. So thank you. Nice to be here.
The community is beautiful. But first of all, tell us, how did you find the Sedona Method and releasing?
Well, I'll have to go into memory about 19 years ago for that one.
Mm-hmm.
So growing up, I had an issue always being socially awkward and felt uncomfortable in any kind of social settings. And I didn't really understand or really know what was supposed to happen, even having a simple conversation. So as you can imagine, that was pretty painful growing up. But when I got to my freshman year of college, I did some searching online, and I came across some different methods, modalities. I tried reading a few books. But ultimately, when I came across the Sedona Method, I said, this seems interesting. It looks like you can get a lot of benefits out of this, and why don't I give it a try? So I worked with it for a bit, the book, and there was a workbook at the time, and then I think there were some recordings that Hale put together. I think he said in his closet. This was before the super course. So I worked with these simple recordings, and then tried to do it on my own. And I just remember one night I was sitting in my room, and I was just doing could you, would you, when, simple process, right? And I did that for a good 20 minutes. And I was feeling so good. And you got to understand, I was coming from such a constricted place. I said, whoa, I didn't think it was even possible to feel this good. So I started seeing the benefits in my life, and it just started having a really good impact. So I knew there was really something there. And here I am 19 years later, still doing it.
Oh, wow. That sounds a wonderful story. So you clearly saw benefits right away, and that kept you going. So how quickly did you find the community, or how long did you do it by yourself?
So I did it on my own, probably a good 15 years. And
Wow.
I had been on, a few of Hale's support calls and raised my hand a couple of times, and, bought some of the other audio recordings. But it was only when there was a retreat in Redondo Beach, I think that was in 2019, right before the pandemic hit, that I said, oh, hey, look, I can drive. I can, it's an hour away from where I currently lived, or at the time in Pasadena. So why don't I go and check this out? And I was just amazed at the community, and that there's a whole, group of people that really are into this work and support it and are interested in helping others. And that was just a real eye-opening discovery after 15 years.
I can imagine. Yes. But you were really really persistent doing it by yourself for 15 years. So how did you practice it by yourself? Did you go through the book or the courses, or you had a favorite way of practicing it?
Right. Yeah. So I went through the book and went through the courses, but I wanted to try to, as best I can, not really be reliant on having to do a recording, or reliant on somebody else, or reliant on a particular book, right? So anytime I have an issue, I'd reference the book, but I didn't want to become dependent on it. So I had a few a few different things I tried. I did like likes and dislikes. I just did could you, would you, when, and really got a lot of experience with that. I'd focus back and forth between the sensations and the space in or on which the sensations appear. So I kind of did that for a while. And then anytime I put my hand up for the calls that Hale did, I would write down everything he said. I'd write down all the releases, and since it felt like, oh, he gave that to me, in the early
Yes.
2000s, I said, oh, well, let me work this. So I worked triple welcoming for a long time as well, and still do that today.
Wow.
So, just to jump in with a question, you were writing a lot of things down in notebooks, is that right? Including the likes and dislikes, aversions and attractions, doing that kind of work in printed notebooks.
Right. So I have a bunch of printed notebooks that I, wrote down what Hale said, wrote down, the different releases. And I did even do for a time writing down using the notebook as the releasing partner, as is suggested in the book. So I did a little bit of that in the very beginning. And then it was more just kind of writing down, what Hale said in his explanations as well as his releases.
Well, I think that's a really good tip, actually, is that writing things down. This has also been my experience. It actually deepens the release. It's really beneficial.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, totally agree. It makes it more concrete, and I think it makes it more likely that you remember, whatever it is, be it a release or an explanation, if you write it down. So I totally agree. I think that really helped.
Yeah, I do that same too. I've done since the first courses or retreats. I had the experience with the book that I first started using it and releasing from it. And then I thought it'd be easier if I could hear the questions. So I ordered the super course. And I left the book for about 2 or 3 years. I didn't really use it. And then when I came back to it, it felt like somebody would have rewritten the book because it was so good. I remember I was confused with the first few rounds, like I didn't get much out of it. But then a few years releasing behind me, it really opened up, and I just love it. It's never been on my bookshelves because it's always there on the side table to be read again and again and just opened wherever. So what's been your experience with the book?
Yeah, well, first, nice to hear it got an upgrade from the bookshelf to, right where it can be opened and used.
Yes.
But I'm sorry, you asked what's my experience with the book?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So the book, I think in the very beginning was really helpful because I think like you, I started off, as like a neck releaser or releasing from the head up, and not really quite so-called getting it right.
Mm-hmm.
And the book was really helpful in the beginning as like a reference of, okay, well, how do I release on a relationship, say with an ex, or how can I, release on my mother? Oh, there's a cleanup. I could do the cleanup on my mother or a different family member. Or it was just really helpful as kind of like a reference point so that I could use it to like solve all the apparent problems that I was having at the time.
Yeah. I remember actually first time I got the super course, and because I knew nothing of the Sedona method as such, so I was expecting kind of a clean course, like just the releases and Hale talking, and it's been recorded in front of a live audience, and I was like, for the first 2 hours, I was like, what's happening? Why do I have to hear these strange people talking and commenting? And now I think back and I think that's the beauty of it, because it really shows that it works and how people react and they ask kind of a clarifications and what about this and I don't get this. And I think we would miss a lot if it was a kind of a clean course.
So the recordings before the super course were quote unquote clean.
Oh,
and
yeah. So you can compare, yeah.
I can compare, yeah. And so, as you can imagine, well, one thing, the energy is a lot different, with recording a video, say in the closet versus in front of a live audience. Because, it's like Hale says, you have the energy of the collective group that makes it more powerful, and not just, slightly more powerful, but like exponentially. So, you don't get that energy on the clean recording. And to your point too, you also miss people asking questions, people interacting. There's something about that makes it more relatable. And you miss that on a clean, perfectly cut recording with, no errors and unfortunately no live audience. So,
Yeah.
and I think that, might be part of the reason why those recordings, I think, are no longer sold.
Very possibly, yes. Yes. Yeah. So since you went to the first retreat in 2019, so what changed in your practice after that?
Yeah. So then it was from there that I realized the importance of helping others with the method, because I had done some, facilitating and helping, and I've been in front of a few groups, but that was only sporadically in those 15 years. But seeing everyone there and connecting and making friends, and then just being part of the live audience, I think was all really helpful in me having a realization of like, hey, I could take this and really help others, and that could probably be a lot of fun. And it was something, it'd been kind of on my mind. I've been kind of thinking about it, but that really made it concrete. And then to hear, oh, hey, there's this WhatsApp line that anybody can ask for a release, and who's ever around can help. And from there, I just started getting more involved with helping people release and helping others. And I think that all stemmed from coming to that first retreat in 2019 at Redondo Beach.
Retreats really are useful in so many ways. And I agree, they kind of, they give you a whole lot deeper and wider dive in, make it more live, to actually be in the same room and space with the people. And one thing I really love, conversations like these, they are beautiful. There are only 3 of us now, so we can actually have a proper conversation. But when there's a retreat online, it has many good sides, but kind of like you don't hear the laughter when people laugh. And I think that's really something just amazing. And being with others in that energy.
Absolutely. There's so many benefits from I think an online retreats, as I've been on a few of those, but you miss that interaction, right? That face-to-face time with people, going to lunch together, going to dinner together, and just simply being in the energy of the collective in that room. I mean, that really has a lot of power, and I think helps us all more than we know.
Well, that's how I met you, Alex, is we met face-to-face in Santa Cruz earlier this year at my first retreat, also in California.
And your first retreat too. Wow.
That was the first retreat that I attended face-to-face, yeah.
Yeah. And I know you've been at it a while. I think, it was my second one, I think, in person, because the pandemic hit, and then, it's the second one I went to. And I know, and it was really beneficial that we got to work together, Steve, and as partners. And I just remember laughing so much. It's like you said, Katya, too. The laughter, you miss that. And had I attended that online, I wouldn't have had the opportunity to meet Stephen and really connect and really laugh together, which was a great experience.
There was indeed a lot of laughter going on, that's for sure.
And that is, I think, in general, but I love so many things about the Sedona Method, but it is not serious business. It's not like we sit here and focus and like frowning and like, let's develop here. But it's, like this. We laugh, we talk, we laugh, we release, we laugh, we see all our tremendous problems, what they really are, and it's laughable eventually.
Right. And I know, and it's funny because that's one of the questions I actually ask some people. If if I'm releasing with someone and they're taking their issues very seriously, I say, well, do you welcome how serious and important and meaningful as that appears?
Mm-hmm.
And then kind of switching back and forth holistic, and then asking if they can see how meaningless and unimportant and frivolous and unreal it appears, and it just kind of like shake things up. So I'm glad you pointed that out, because not all the work has to be serious, and oftentimes there's a lot of laughter when releasing together using the Sedona method.
Often, very often. And I think it's obvious it helps, because when you're laughing, you are kind of open and relaxed. Whereas if you're trying to do some serious business, well, you are doing exactly that. You are trying.
Right. You ever try to do serious business and force a release? Typically doesn't go too well, does it?
No, it doesn't go too well.
Right.
So you have been helping people a lot with the Sedona method lately. So do you have a favorite way of doing that? Something you always like to do, or you found especially helpful?
Yeah, there's probably a few things, if I could mention more than one.
Of course.
I think that for one, triple welcoming is always I found to be beneficial, because a lot of us tend to get caught up in our stories and wanting to fix it and change it and get rid of it, and identifying with how personal it feels. And even in triple welcoming, it helps address all that, but it can also help us change our relationships to the problem, and can even help us see that we're not the apparent problems that we have. So I think that's just kind of like an easy, simple way to really, kind of cut through any kind of problems or whatever's being experienced rather quickly. So that's one. I think another thing I've been exploring lately is the question, what is the source or essence of that, right? So tracing any kind of feelings, which can show up as sensations in the body, and kind of going and tracing that back to its source, so or essence, because I've been noticing as you look and continue to look, even those sensations, even the problems are made up of space, or our space. So that's kind of what I've been exploring lately in my own releasing, and been gaining some benefits from that.
Alex, I want you to know that I just wrote that statement down in my notebook, which I always keep at hand.
Very good. It'll help you remember it. Or
Exactly.
not.
Exactly. No, exactly. So yeah.
Yeah. Very cool.
So those questions, those your favorites when you're releasing on your own, or do you have something you keep just for yourself, or find this looks better when you're doing releasing on your own?
Well, it's funny, because it almost seems like whatever questions I'm using on my own in the moment tend to help with others, right? So if I'm using what is the source, I'll bring that in. Or another thing I've been doing from Lester is, could you turn that feeling into love, right? Or another way to say that is, could you allow the love that's already here to shine through? Could you just let the love shine through? So sometimes, lately, when I've been feeling quote unquote non-love, feelings, I ask myself, well, could you just turn that into love? And it was funny. I was doing that with one of my releasing partners not too long ago, and when it was her turn to ask me to release, she asked me that question, and I started laughing, really, and that led to some really big releases. So I kind of like that one. Could you just turn it into love? It's a little more declarative, but still very useful.
Alex, that's actually one of my favorites as well. That really, really is. And it has another name that Lester gave it, which is squaring all with love.
Yes,
We-
exactly.
Yeah, you
And
sometimes hear that phrase too. I love that exercise.
right, yeah, just squaring it or turning it all into love, and it's really, really powerful. Especially, God,
An even deeper perspective is allowing it to be the love that it already is.
Mhm.
that's
You
right.
know, it's not a question of us doing anything to it. It's just looking at what already is at all
Right, right.
times.
Right, because
Yeah,
even these feelings that appear as non-love are really love in disguise, and it's just a simple noticing, if even that, of it.
that's right. That's right. Yeah, and there's a little one perspective that often helps as well too is that even if it does seem to be a disturbing feeling or thought of some kind, well, isn't it trying to help? I mean, in the end, isn't it trying to do something positive, helping? Isn't it meaning, even if it's just like a defense mechanism, isn't it trying to help and make benefit by protecting?
Absolutely.
So how could
It's
it possibly be anything other than love?
right, right. It's trying to help you in this, so-called disguised way, and just
Right,
by
right.
help, just by uh, it being there and kind of giving us that signal, giving us that feedback. I
Yeah,
mean, how could that be anything other than love? So
that's it.
I completely agree.
I totally agree too, but I'm curious, how have you found explaining or using that with people who might be not that experienced with releasing or who are totally new to releasing? Do you find it's easy for them to see it
Right.
or?
Right. So I think that comes back to meeting people where they're at, right? So if somebody's new and say, I suggest, I may or may not, but suppose I suggest that, all the feelings are love, even these non-feelings are love. If they resonate with that, great. Then I can continue to go down that path and we continue to explore that together and see where it goes. If they don't, if they kind of close up or say, well, I don't really understand, or I don't really see how that could be, or, but that's not really my experience. And I've heard kind of say variations of that, right, with people who are new or who aren't in the community, which is totally fine. But then I simply drop it and take a different direction. I don't ever want to force a particular way of releasing if somebody doesn't resonate with that. So it's kind of, it just goes with reading the audience or reading whomever you're releasing with and helping, and kind of adjusting, which tools you use and which language you use and what kind of explanations that are going to best help meet them where they're at and help them with their experience.
That is beautiful. That is beautiful. Yet another thing I love about the Sedona method is that it's so there are so many ways of using it. It's not just you always ask the same questions in the same order for everyone in whatever has been happening. So it's very flexible.
That's right, because everyone's different. Everyone has their own unique perspective. Some people resonate with welcoming, some people resonate with letting go, some people resonate with the non-dual portions of the method. Everybody's different. So the good thing about it is, there's so many different ways to let go that it's something that can resonate with a lot of people. And even in my own releasing, and even with releasing with others, if I were to use the same question over and over and over and over again, it would start to feel like I'm probably banging my head up against a brick wall, because that's what the mind does. It and I've noticed it creates this like armor, this kind of guard around, whatever question. If we use the same question a long time, the mind kind of, finds a way to trick it, or move around it, or resist it, or fight it. And that's why, I like the different tools, because I can mix it up in my own releasing or releasing with others, so that it kind of keeps it fresh and offers a different perspective and helps us continue even in the face of resistance.
I'm curious to hear people in the community have a kind of different views of the basic questions and welcoming. What is your view? Does it work for you, or do you like welcoming? Do you like you said you were using basic questions for a long time, so you apparently like them. They work for you.
So yeah, and I know people have different opinions about letting go versus welcoming. For me, I've used the basic tools for a long time of, like, this declarative, could you let it go, would you, when, and that can be really effective in even on long-standing issues. So for me, both that works, both welcoming works. But for other people, I just kind of I put it out there, and I kind of feel out to see what works for them. I've noticed some people who are new, who are not in the Sedona Method community, it's easy for them to understand welcoming, because, well, the motion is here anyway. So since it's here anyway, could you welcome that, or is that welcome? It seems like it's a natural progression for whatever is being stirred up in the moment. Whereas some other people, and not everyone, when it comes to letting go, like, well, I don't know if I can let it go, or I don't know how I can let it go. Some people have resistance to it, and that's fine. It goes back to all the different ways of releasing, to kind of meet people where they're at, or resonate with what people resonate with.
It's a really wise direction. Meet people where they are at. I think it should spread outside of the releasing community, and we should meet people in general where they are at. But it's it's easier to forget when you're not releasing.
Right. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. So lately we've been in the community. Hale has been moving on towards the Norway, the non-dual type of thing. So how have you found was it easy for you to kind of jump into that train, or have you been resisting or having doubts about it?
Well, I think for me it was relatively easy, because I had been working with the fifth way for a while, and while I'll be honest, that didn't set in right away. It took a little. I was just doing could you, would you, when, and then there's this fifth way. It's like, whoa, it took me like maybe a year or so to kind of wrap my head around it, and really, understand it. But can it really be understood, right? Mm-hmm. So when Hale started doing the more no way, or the non-duality stuff, I just kind of saw it as an extension of the fifth way of, oh, well, all right, it's what's apparently happening. Oh, isn't everything what's apparently happening? I can see that. And well, what if there is no me, and there is no story? Well, I've had glimpses of that, even though I'm using language, and we always get into trouble, right? Using any kind of language to describe a way that isn't a way. But I've seen glimpses of that, experientially. So it it makes sense, not to the mind, but to, I think, what we really are. It's hard to put that into words,
It is. I had to fight a little bit. I had the doubt about it when it first started coming through. But I think it has really brought much more depth. Am I pronouncing it right? Like, it's making this go deeper. Good. The more later it is, blah 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 blah. English becomes more difficult. But so it's kind of bringing a whole new dimension, even though it's no dimension, but kind of like you can kind of swing or dance in between. But I did have a kind of phase when I thought that, well, do I have to stop releasing altogether? Like, should I just see this? It's just apparently happening thing, but like Hale has said again and again, no, you don't throw them out of the window. It was easier for you to kind of go along and keep using.
Well, right, yeah, because I think all the momentum I had releasing, over the years, just kind of, I think, helped make it an easier transition. But it's the kind of thing. It takes as long as it takes, or as long as it doesn't take for no one, because it all happens out of time. It's not time bound,
Yeah, and there are no mistakes. So, and we aren't doing anything. So.
Right. And yeah, it kind of goes back to Stephen's point a little earlier. It's like, well, is it really a mistake if that's love, if it's love in disguise?
Right.
Or a mistake for who? Can you find the one who made the mistake? Or is that just what's apparently happening?
Yeah. And even just kind of seeing that mistake is just a concept. It's always mistake for someone's point of view, even if you think about in a person level. So
absolutely. I mean, because does beingness make mistakes? Can beingness be perturbed or disturbed by mistakes? Yeah, exactly.
Well, that word mistake contains within it a judgment.
Right.
And
right.
Yeah, so in that sense, it's kind of a useless word, isn't it? Yeah, the judgments what really end up making mistakes into mistakes, if you will.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah. How do we know it's a mistake? Well, there's all the judgments around it. It's those constrictions.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I shouldn't have done this. I should have done that. It should have been this way. I could have done it that way. What was I thinking? It's all the judgments that really lock it in,
Right.
and appear to make it appear as a mistake, I guess, for a lack of a better term.
Well, on the other hand, though, it's also very often a way of discovering what you didn't know.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So yeah,
absolutely.
You can recontextualize it there and just make it something of value.
Of course. Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
So you've been using the Sedona Method for nearly 2 decades, Alex. So, and so you clearly have found benefit, but what would you say has been the biggest change? It's a long time though, so it's kind of what depends on the Sedona Method, but I kind of think you have some hunch what might be due to releasing.
Yeah. I mean, I think overall it helps me life better. So, the issues and problems, yeah, of course they still come up, problems at work, problems in relationships, problems in the world, problems with the body. These things all still arise, and they don't cease. And I don't believe that they will as long as I'm on this earthly plane. It's just that releasing can help address the issues, and it kind of takes the sting away, as I like to say. It takes the sting away. So these problems can come up, and I've finding myself becoming more non-reactive. So I think that's one piece, right? Is working on the problems and becoming non-reactive. I could have people yelling at me in traffic or saying my ideas are ridiculous. Sometimes I say, oh yeah, okay, oh yeah, all right, that's okay, no problem. So I think that's one piece of just being non-reactive with all the problems. But I think the second piece is, I go through life, I see the world, and experience life, and I always, even as a young kid, I always thought, is this really all there is? I mean, there's got to be something more than just beyond my emotions, beyond the day-to-day existence of the world. There's something. I've always felt there's something beyond that, and that's where I think the fifth way, no way, and free way comes into play, because it's actually, goes beyond solving problems. It really does. And taking you to see as this exploration of what's really beyond. Am I really that body? Am I really this world? Are there really any others? Who is this happening to? And the Sedona method, in that sense, really kind of fulfills my need to really see beyond and experience beyond this day-to-day experience that most of us call life.
Oh, that's beautiful. Put.
Yeah, that was very well put.
Thank you.
Then I want to ask you, you've been, besides the Sedona method, you also have experience in helping people to heal using Native American traditions. And that is very interesting. So would you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So that I've actually learned from my father, who actually was taught by a man who was a Native American in Nicaragua. He was a fully realized master, so he had no lack of understanding, right? He did a bunch of the things that you find or you read about in books, right? So he did some so-called miraculous healings, right? So like a woman, I don't know, had a tumor on her back the size of about a football, and he spent some time with her, and she came out, the tumor was gone, and she was crying, thanking him. He did a bunch of, that was just one thing. There's number of things that he did. But what he did, he was a healer, and my father was his number one student. So he showed my father some of these old Native American traditions and ways that have really most of which have been lost today, although there's still some around, but a lot of it's been lost. So a lot of it deals with like hands-on healing, so running energy, through the body, through your hands, and in different ways to help people with physical problems, physical conditions. And so I've been learning some of that healing work from my father, who was taught by this fully realized master, really.
Wow. So do you see any connection to the Sedona method? Do you use them together, or see some way they complement each other, or are they
Yeah,
different,
and
separate things?
right. So I think with the Sedona method, it's a wonderful complement to really anything you do. And that includes, not just taking care of the body or any other, spiritual teachers and their teachings. It's also a wonderful complement to the Native American healing work and old ways that I practice, because releasing the emotions around the body can be healing. So sometimes, I've had, when I've run the energy on clients, I say, okay, well, could you dive into the core of that, or could you look through the sensations? Could you even, using a bit of Lester, could you even make it hurt more? Could you make it, as you run it, could you make it hurt more? And then, they'll feel the sensations, and then they'll dissolve, and then maybe something else will come up. So I use the method sometimes in conjunction with doing the native work. And there's also too, with the Native American work, there's parts of it that help to see that you're not just the body, you're beyond. So I think they're wonderful compliments.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of common in the Sedona Method with many so-called spiritual teachings, or especially kind of original ways of thinking. Original, that's not the right word, but kind of a native people's way of thinking, not our Western commercialized way of seeing the world. So
Right, and it's definitely a different perspective. A very,
yes.
very, very good one. You know, I have so much respect for the native peoples, and you know, with their connection to the earth, the connection to each other, all our relations. You know, not just people, but the birds, the animals, the plants, the earth, everything. I have a lot of respect for them because I think in a lot of the Native American traditions, they really understand that connection between all of us and with the power that's higher than us.
Yes.
They are living in oneness, or as oneness already.
Yes.
Kind of, it's not a separate thing, nature.
Right, right. Exactly. On one level, there is all one. So there is no you and there is no higher power. You come down to another level. Okay, in separation, of course, there's going to be two, but in oneness, there's only one.
Yeah. Yeah, and I really love how Sedona Method is truly, like you said, it's kind of can be it's a unique way, but it's very kind and gentle, so it can be kind of used. It's beneficial for basically anything you do. So it's really a flexible system. And like well, we have the disclaimer, we don't diagnose your advice about any illness, etc. But still, I think we all know that whenever there's any physical or mental sickness or illness, I think what makes it so painful and hard is exactly our feelings and expectations about it, our thoughts and fears about it. If we just focused on what is here now, which is usually sensations, it's not that bad. But
Right. You know, a lot of time. Well, yes. First of all, yes to the disclaimer. Absolutely. But right, a lot of times, you know, it's that expression. We add insult to injury. So not only are we dealing with the sensations and the problem, it's all the stuff about it. It's all the judgments. Oh, I shouldn't have it. Why is it better yet? Is it better yet? Is it better yet? Why hasn't it moved? It should have moved by now. If only I had done this, it would be better. You know, oh, what does this mean? Why do I have to suffer with this? And on and on and on. And it's like you said, that's where the Sedona method comes in and can help, you know, release the dis-ease in disease, right? Or it can help help us release the thoughts, the emotions, the ideas, the feelings about it. And sometimes that's enough. Sometimes that can have huge benefits. I've even seen that in, you know, some of the people whom, you know, I've released with. Even seen some people experience some relief from physical issues and physical sensations. So, right, while it's not a guarantee, but it can be very beneficial in dealing with all the emotional baggage around the physical issue or problem. And if I could add one more thing, it can even help us see on another level that we're not our apparent problems. We're not the body. And even that, I think, tremendously supports the body. It's you know, it can help people find ways to take care of it or find new ways that they didn't think of before to continue taking care of the body. So yeah, just so many benefits of even working on a physical issue with the method.
it can be. It's kind of like I've had the benefits of like having a really, really bad headache, and then releasing partner helping me with that, and just relaxation is a relief. But then as that relaxation came, kind of, then I was open to, oh, so I kind of see that that's a story, but that's how it felt, that I was ready to see that, oh, I could try this. And then I found a way that kind of a actual medical thing that helped also. But I wasn't ready to try it because I was just focusing on how awful I feel. You're probably
Right. Right.
that.
And I think that's not just you, but we all do that. I've
Yeah.
definitely done that a number of times, and it's funny, right? Because either if we release on our own, or oftentimes, with a partner can be very helpful. It can bring a different perspective, right? And it can help initiate a shift in consciousness that allows us to see, instead of seeing here, we see more possibilities. And as we release more, we see more. Or, oh, maybe I could do this medical thing over here. Maybe I could get acupuncture, or maybe I could try this different cream I didn't think of, or maybe there's somebody else, some other healer with a different modality will just appear or will pop out. And there's all these different things that when we release, we can see it, or just happen to appear to us. Whereas before, releasing, we kind of think, oh, this is it. We're so focused on the issue, the symptoms, the whatever. So that's great to hear about your experience with that headache.
Yeah, that was just one example. And about the power of those stories and expectations. I had an experience when I could see when my mother was, she had dementia, and she also had cancer. And before she was too demented, she was really worried about her health. Like, even when she wasn't having any symptoms, she was waiting for, when will the symptoms return, or is there something wrong with me? She was thinking and circling around her health issues like nonstop. But as the dementia kind of got worse, she forgot she was ill. And yes, she still had the pains, but she wasn't mentally focusing on them. She was like, and I remember taking her to the hospital, and she was like, why are we going here? Is there something wrong with me? I'm like, no, we are just going for a checkup. And she was, oh, okay. And kind of, she didn't focus on being ill or worrying about it. And even, I'm not wishing we all had dementia, of course, but kind of like with Sedona Method and releasing, we can kind of bring ourselves a good dementia, forgetting the worrying part.
Well, that's first of all, that's a beautiful story about that. And exactly right. It's like you said. It's all the worry and anticipation and expectation and thinking it should be a certain way. It's like, if you check, does all that really help? does all that help us feel better or manage the situation? Well, no. And the beauty about the method is, you can let that go, all because all that doesn't help. And even in the case of your mother, it's almost like, that can be done even without the method. Even just seeing it, just I don't know, not focusing on it, for lack of a better term, not focusing, not being so fixated on it,
Mm-hmm.
and just being, or just letting it go. And it's almost like that component doesn't have to add insult to injury. That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome. We've been talking about on this podcast about also the beauty about releasing partners, and you mentioned that yourself too, like when you speak with another one, you kind of sense where they are at and meet them there. And did you have releasing partners before your first retreat, or did you take them after that?
So no, I didn't have any releasing partners for the first 15 years. But then at the first retreat, I met one of my good friends that I'm still good friends with, and we were releasing partners for a while, and then and we still release together once in a while. But then in the mentor group, I have two releasing partners.
So what do you find is the best thing about releasing partners?
Oh wow, that's a great question. I think just having the ability to interact and share. It's nice to receive relief if I have a particular issue, or if I'm stuck somewhere. It's nice to gain that different perspective from them. But I think what I like seeing them experience relief from their issues, or just kind of seeing them smile, or leave them in a quote unquote better place than where they were when we started. That just brings so much joy. And it's the kind of thing I feel so grateful for, that opportunity just to be able to share that time together and share this method together. So almost it's like Hale says, it's like an excuse to hang out. But at the same time, there's so much joy in helping an apparent other person with their apparent problems, and seeing them say, oh wow, I really feel good now. I feel like I'm in a better place. It's so grateful to have the opportunity for that.
Yeah, it just brings to mind that I do see you quite often on the on-call releasing channel that we have on WhatsApp.
Oh yeah, it's such a joy to just be involved in the community, and when I'm available, be able to take the time and help people release, because again, it's for those reasons I just mentioned, of just being able to see someone be in such a better place from where they started. Oh yeah, actually, I feel great. Hey, that was nice. There's a sense of things appearing but being less real, or you really helped with whatever issue, a relationship issue, or whatever's going on. Just brings so much joy. So I continue to jump in the WhatsApp group from time to time.
I was just curious though, just a bit of background for those who are watching and may not be familiar. We have a WhatsApp group which is for on-call releasing. It's at this point a couple hundred people. And at any time of the day, from anywhere in the world, you can just ask. And if somebody is interested in working with you, or if you'd like to facilitate, you can also offer. And it's just a place that people meet up and do facilitation. They facilitate each other. But I was just curious to hear from you, like, how did you first approach this? When you first saw this, how did you feel about it when you saw these people asking, do you want to release? Do you want to facilitate? Yeah.
Yeah. Felt excited.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah, I felt excited. I saw all these, release question mark. I'm like, well, yeah, why not? I can jump in here. And even though at the beginning, I didn't have much experience at all doing that, I could do this. And I just felt excited. And I was actually surprised quite in the beginning of, like, people actually felt better. Like, whoa, this actually is appearing to work. Like, no way. I never thought it could be so effective so quickly. And it was just really exciting, and it almost grew on me. And over time, I just kept trying to help people and get on there when I have a minute. I'm not busy with work or whatever else going on.
That's true. I very often see your name across the screen. Oh, there he is again. And that's also part of taking part in this community, is beginning to recognize all the names. It's kind of fun. But for me, I remember that in the beginning, I was a little bit frightened about, or cautious, or I don't know. I just didn't want to jump in. I took part in these these facilitation practice calls that we do. And again, to those who are not familiar, as a part of learning to facilitate with the facilitator training course, that's actually how these calls began. The people who had been learning how to facilitate then began to hold weekly calls so that we could connect with each other. And well, you're actually running one of these calls now on Tuesdays. I just wanted to tie that in as well. Yes.
Thanks for the background and for the promotion. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's a joy to run these calls. Basically, like Stephen mentioned, just a simple facilitation practice call. So regardless of experience, anyone's welcome to join who has an interest in facilitating, and we just have a simple agenda. Start with sharing gains, and we do the pre-facilitation procedure, break out in the breakout rooms, and take turns facilitating one another, and bring the group back to do the cleanup. And it's a wonderful opportunity to practice your facilitation skills, get feedback, and continue to help others. So Stephen mentioned I am currently running a call Tuesdays at 6:00 p.m. Pacific time, weekly, and it's just a joy to run that particular call in the community and be able to interact and mingle in this community we have.
Well, and so for me, that was actually the first taste of it as a community, because I would be meeting people like, Yvonne, who runs a Monday call. And for example, Ingrid, who she is one of our German facilitators who I first began to see on another call. And you just become more familiar with them. You work in partnership, facilitating and releasing. And then, for me, that's just how these names on the screen started becoming actual faces and friends.
Absolutely, yeah. No, yeah. And I feel like I'm in a similar boat in that it's just nice being able to put faces to the names and just talk outside of, say, releasing one-on-one on the WhatsApp line, and just nice to get to know just a lot of great people in the community and make friends with a lot of good people. It's just very grateful to be a part of this whole thing.
I couldn't agree more.
Me neither. Okay, I think that's pretty good ending point for this conversation, because that's what we are, happy about this community and kind of a one enlarged family. Like Hale says, welcome to the family, to new people. And like in any family, you aren't always happy with everyone and everything, but you still wouldn't leave. You get much more than you get annoyed with.
Right, yeah, I know. I think the whole is greater than the sum of the parts.
Exactly.
Good. Exactly. On that point, I'll just go ahead and stop the recording, and we can call it a